as I said earlier, our keynote speaker was not available, so you got me. I'm sorry. There's so much to talk about, but let's deal with the main reason why we're here. Mayor Bowman has, in essence, declared a personal mandate succeeding the March 15th mandate where masks are no longer required. Now, some of the city of Winnipeg employees will not have to wear a mask. But talking about transit drivers, as they keep filing by here, there are 1,500 transit drivers in the city of Winnipeg. I have friends who drive for the city of Winnipeg Transit. At least 400 have stated that they do not wish to wear their mask at work. But the city of Winnipeg, and let's be clear, the top elected official in Winnipeg is the mayor. There is nobody that exceeds him as the top elected official. So why do I say that? Why am I bringing that point relevant? On my way here, I was called by the Winnipeg Free Press. And whenever you get a call from the Free Press, you immediately want to check what they're going to publish, because it's probably going to be something different than what you said. Fear Press, that's another way. So she engaged me in conversation, and she wanted to make it clear, did I know that in fact the mayor was not the one who had made the declaration or made the decision that City of Winnipeg transit drivers had to wear masks. She was clear. Oh, it's Michael Jack, the Chief Administrative Officer. And I said, let me be clear. Who's the mayor of Winnipeg? Mr. Bowman. That is the man that we elected. So to say that this individual has more power than the mayor is technically correct, but it is morally wrong. Your mayor needs to be your champion. Your premier needs to be your champion. God help us, we one day find a prime minister that'll be a champion of Canada and stand up for this country. Hello. Amen? Amen. So, Mr. Michael Jack, if it is upon you, and in fact within your power to do this, we come to you as people on behalf of the Winnipeg Transit drivers, 400 of which publicly have stated they do not wish to wear their masks. And I can tell you that when you get 400 out of 15 speaking up, you probably have more, and fear is a reason they won't speak up. These drivers are citizens of Winnipeg. And if the riders on the buses can be without a mask, tell me, where's your rationale that the drivers have to wear a mask? It simply doesn't make sense. But we have been living and we have been conditioned to accept things that don't make sense. And I call that something that matters. Because there are things that matter. Common sense matters. Rationale matters. We are responsible people. In the interview, she immediately declared me to be anti-vaccine. I said, let me correct you. We are not anti-vaccine. We are pro-bodily autonomy. Every person, according to the Constitution of Canada, is given the right to make a choice for themselves. And that, in the Constitution, states clearly vaccines are not mandatory. And the government of Canada, along with all the so-called experts, have not met the threshold to prove that we are going to subvert your constitutional right. That is a fact. And that's why Brian Peckford is suing the government of Canada. And that's why groups like Action for Canada are initiating actions against our elected officials. We are going to hold them accountable for crimes against humanity. So, from this place right here, to anyone that has ears to hear, and particularly the mayor of this great city of which I grew up in. I spent half my life in this city. I love this city. I grew up in North Kildonan, a suburb of Winkler, Steinbach, a heavily occupied, or there were a lot of Mennonite people there. I'm saying that the faith element was big there. And what we're saying now to Mayor Bowman, do the right thing. Do the right thing and let people choose for themselves, and particularly our good transit drivers, let them choose for themselves as well. If you're a transit driver and you choose to wear your mask, God bless you. That's your right, that's your choice, and if you don't, you have the right. After all, again, where's the common sense in that the riders don't have to wear it, but the drivers do? Mayor Bowman, do the right thing. Order this individual, Mr. Jack, let me get his name here, Michael Jack, order him to stand down on this mask mandate. Because after all, let's show some leadership. Mr. Mayor, you are the leader here. You're supposed to be the leader. Show us some leadership and make a good decision and revoke this mask mandate for our city of Winnipeg drivers. There are a lot of things we could talk about. And people come to me and say, what's the big deal? Why are you so on about all this stuff? Why are you even holding a rally today in Winnipeg? Haven't you heard mask mandates are gone? All that stuff is gone. Attendance limits and all that. Oh, it's all gone. And I say, you, sir, need to get informed. Ignorance is not bliss, it's poverty. And when we have people that say to us, why are you concerned? I said, are you aware of all the bills? Are you aware of all the bills that are coming? He's louder than me. I'm going to let him go by for a minute here. There are so many bills in action. I'm just going to breeze on a couple of these because there's just far too many. Bill, I'm going to come back to this one, so I'm going to push back Bill S-232. Let me get back to that one. But here you have Bill S-231, an act to amend the criminal code. You have Bill S-226, an act to amend the Constitution Act of 1867. These bills are being tabled in the Senate right now. Be aware. Be informed. Digital IDs are coming. Bill C-36, again, to amend the criminal code and the Canadian human rights. That's in the Commons. If it's got a C, it's in the Commons. If it's got an S, it's in the Senate. And there are so many bills that come into effect. There are so many things that have happened. You know, there's a war being fought for freedom. There's a war being fought in a land where a lot of people from Winnipeg have come from, the great country of Ukraine. And in many ways, it's a distraction to what's happening in our country right now. As these bills are being tabled, as these bills are coming before our elected for discussion and debate. Now, let me focus on one in particular here. Just one. Bill S-232. 232 is the... Pardon me, get that wrong. See, so many of them. 233. Let me get that right. Thank you, Rose. Bill S-233 has been tabled and for discussion and is being worked on by the Senate to come up with a framework for universal income. Some estimates go as high as $100 billion on that bill alone. $100 billion in relative terms is more than double the federal portion of our healthcare program in this country, which stands at about $45 billion. And what this bill is going to do is it's going to introduce that every person 17 years and up, and there's so much behind it, so just bear with me if I don't get it all out, but 17 years and older, regardless of citizenship, regardless of their standing in this country, which is to say any landed or illegal immigrant, everybody in this country is going to get a universal income of as much as $2,000 a month, which exceeds the minimum wage if you work that out. And at a cost of now $85 billion, which is the last number I heard, that is almost double with the healthcare. So what does this mean? On the surface, it means, well, everybody's going to get money from the government. Well, that doesn't on the surface sound that alarming, because a lot of people already do get money from the government. But when you're facing a labor shortage, as we are in this country right now, where are those laborers going to come from? Why are they going to go to work? This will be the greatest disincentive this country has ever seen, where people will simply say, why would I go to work? Or you ask them what their job is? Oh, I go to the mailbox. That's what I do. I get my check from the government. And we are going to create a society of individuals that are going to be dependent on the government. What's that called? Socialism. How are you going to get your money? Only if you're a good citizen in standing with the government. Social credit scores are right behind that, guys. Come on. Look at it on the surface. It sounds like Mr. Trudeau is going to be kind to every Canadian. He is being cruel. He's going to create a generation of the most lazy people we've ever seen. And they're going to be dependent on the government. And that is what you get. If you take an animal, and I'm not equating humans and animals, God has elevated man, and we know where we stand in relative to God. We are created in His image. But on His example, any animal that would be constantly fed will lose its ability and its derived to go out and fend for itself. Go to the zoo. Every lovely creature of God that's in that zoo, and I'm not advocating against zoos, but by example, that animal will not survive in the wild. And Canadians of all generations are at risk here with this Bill S-233 of becoming dependent on a government. We don't need a government. We know how to work. Our fathers and mothers and grandfathers and mothers taught us how to work. Work is a good thing. It's an ethic. It's a reason to get up in the morning and go to bed at night knowing you have purpose, knowing you have a position, and the social interaction. And there's so many aspects of 233. You can exhaust yourself on this. That is critical. We cannot afford, financially, cannot afford S-233, and more importantly, morally cannot afford to have a bill like this, because these people will be dependent on state and they will not learn the ethic and the value of work. We cannot have S-233. It's in the Senate right now. That means it comes to the Commons for further debate and discussion and voting on the floor. That is just one of the critical aspects. Now, what Nurse Trish talked about here, I want to elaborate on, because again, in my brief discussion with the Free Press, you know, they're declaring us to be anti-maskers. No, we're not. No, you know what? You can wear your mask. Just don't tell everybody to wear one. It's choice. It's always been about choice. All of what we've dealt with in the last 2 years has been a revocation of our choice. They have taken choice away, and choice must always remain. It's given to us by our Creator God. We must stand for that. Every Canadian should be standing for that. It does not matter whether you chose to have a vaccine or not. It does not matter if you wear a mask or not. You should be all about choice, because some point, your choice, that which is critical to you, that which matters to you the most, is also going to be taken away. And even the voices of our churches are going to be silent. That's coming, folks. Those bills are in progress. And all churches who have taken money from this government, I challenge you to return the blood money, because they're going to stifle you. They're going to censor you. They're going to tell you what to preach. And the gospel of Jesus will soon be declared hate speech. That is critical. So, in relation to all of this, Mr. Pardon me, I'm forgetting the name here for a second. No, I'm talking Peter McCullough. Peter McCullough, a well-recognized doctor, a doctor of great esteem and well-respected, spoke recently in the Senate. And what he said in the Senate was that after studying the events and the COVID and everything, he's identified 4 pillars that make up our system that are vital to dealing with it. Number one, in a situation like we had, there was the need to protect the most vulnerable. Those are the people in nursing homes whose immune systems are compromised by age. He spoke at length about that. He declared we failed on that one miserably. Number two, early preventative measures to ensure that people build their immune systems up, that there are more than one way to treat a COVID or any virus. We neglected that. And he also went on to further elaborate that there is not one single hospital in the United States that's been declared a hospital of expert, where all of the collective minds, the greatest medical minds, could have been together and joined forces and said, what's worked for you and what's worked for you, and the sharing of ideas and the coming together to arrest this virus. That did not happen. Failure number two. Number three, in-hospital treatments failed. More people died in the hospital of COVID than died outside the hospital. And he went on to say this, and I was shocked when he said this. 95% of the COVID deaths, which are now approaching 1 million, could have been averted. We could have saved 95% of those people if we would have just employed early preventative, protecting the vulnerable, and proper hospital treatment. 95%. That is a crime against humanity in itself, that we allowed almost 1 million people to die We watched it happen at the hands of experts, at the hands of our elected. And number 4 he identified was the vaccination. Interesting, he put that at the tail end because it plays a part. And even today, we're hearing that vaccinations lessen the symptoms, but they do not protect you from getting COVID. That has been recognized. This is the science that they want you to follow. And now, let's talk about informed consent. And I don't want to bore you to tears, so forgive me, but this is all just coming to mind as I'm standing here in front of you. There are some 1,200 side effects of the vaccinations right now, and I might be low on that one because the list is growing daily. So now, what you've always had before has never been present, and that is informed consent, which means that they have a right to inform you of what the possible side effects are of this trial treatment, of this experimental jab that they were giving you. They did not do that. Here's the question. Now that those symptoms have come out, possible side effects, when a person goes for vaccination, should it not be mandatory that all of those 1,200 plus be read to that person as a possible side effect? I say yes. Because that's informed consent, folks. That's creating a bond between the patient and doctor, which has been tremendously compromised because all you get is sit down, shut up, and roll up. And you look at that and you say, how could we do this? How could we be so unkind to each other? How could our doctors forsake their oath of do no harm? How did that happen? We allowed it to happen because we have, doctors aren't elected, let's be clear on that, but the people that regulate them are. And we need to start making those changes. And I'm going to bring to the front right now Mr. Patrick Allard. He's standing back there doing some political. Pat Allard, you want to come up here for a minute? Make your way to the front? Come up front here, my friend. When I talk about change, I think about guys like Patrick Allard, who's become a friend of mine. He has been on the forefront before I was on the forefront, fighting against that which was inherently wrong, that which he knew in his soul was wrong, that which was violating us as Canadians. He's taken the hits, and he's still standing. And right now, he is intentional on becoming the first independent MLA in the province of Manitoba, running for the seat in Fort White. Patrick, tell us about your vision and your passion, and why you would want to run for this seat.